Hello and welcome back to my channel. It's Belinda here from Visualized NZ. I'm back with another label project, would you believe it? And I forgot to grab out my example ones before I started the video, so I'll just grab them now. I did briefly show them in Monday's video, but in case you didn't see that, I'll just pick out a few here. I won't pick them all out. I'm just picking ones that might be sitting on top, hopefully. But I have shuffled these. So there's an example of what I want to do with you today, or do for you. Are these wee labels, and you may have guessed by what's on my desk in front of me as I'm using colouring book pages. So I think they are super cute, and I have used a combination of Sharpies and felt tip pens or markers, whatever you want to call them, to colour them. I'm really enjoying the bright, bold colours, but if you don't want to use the pen, if you prefer a more delicate look, then by all means coloured pencil or whatever you would like to use. But using colouring book pages, this comes from a kind of a magazine style one, BDM Mind Series 1. And back when I first started into colouring, I kind of just went with what was cheap and easily available. And then as I progressed and got more into colouring, my preference was for a more story-like book, or a more unique art, I guess, of the likes of Joanna Basford and Millie Marotta and a whole bunch of others, of brilliant artists, and I enjoy them for the art that's in the book. These ones I don't enjoy as much. I find them relaxing when I just need to mindlessly colour without worrying about how it's going to turn out, because my other books I like to take my time and really enjoy the process. This I like big, bold, bright. But I've got several of these, and I see these types of books and magazines in thrift shops quite a lot for very cheap. Sometimes they might have a page or two coloured, sometimes they don't. Now what I'm going to do, you can also do with a pre-coloured page. If you've got one that you've coloured but you don't want to keep, it's just sort of hanging around, you can absolutely make labels out of it. And I have done that in the past. But if you don't want to colour a whole page to make labels with, I don't see the point in it. It's like, if you're just doing it for labels, then colour as you go, because there'll be bits that are waste. That why colour it when it's ultimately rubbish? I hope that makes sense to you. So what I'm going to do is, I've got one of my new label stamps here, and I like doing it with this particular. It's a really good size, and I've just re-inked my stamp pad a couple of hours ago, so hopefully it's all good to go. And with this type of book, there's a design on both sides, so you know, you can pick and choose as to what you like the look of, and place your stamp wherever you would like. And I like to get the design so it fills either a corner or an edge of some description, and leaves some blank space for either a word, or the when it goes on a piece of ephemera for the owner to write on it once they've got your journal. Yeah, I like to frame it so that it's got some space. And I just will go around and stamp a few here and there. So I'm just picking areas that I think will look nice. So need to think about placement, so I can't talk, obviously, because I stopped talking. Clean off that bit of ink off my block. So I'll just do a few, just to get the ball rolling. And I really like that leaf there with a little bit of flower. And my preference for the type of images I go are with lots of edges. I'll just clean off my block, my stamp, sorry, before I go on to the next bit. Is lots of edges so you can get that edge detail. If I were to stamp in the middle, then I would get no writing space. So I'd be looking for a blank space in the middle where it would work. And that's where flipping it over, you can get a different set of images. So you've got lots of white space in here. So you could perhaps get that line detail with one wee heart, and that would work really well. But I take it a bit at a time, rather than going, I'll move that book out of the way, I don't need it now. Rather than going stamp, 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 and then colouring, I like to just stamp a bit, colour a bit, cut, and then do the next round. It just keeps it a bit fresh and interesting, rather than doing it all at once. So I've just got my box here of my Sharpies and markers, and then I'll just choose out some colours that I'm feeling at the time. Oops, just knocking everything over, my glue sticks. And just deciding, I feel like this should be this colour. And I love big, bold, bright colours. Now with these labels, there is a fine inner line and then your dark border. And I like to take the colour through into that medium space in between the two lines. Now you could stop on the inside line and then colour a different colour around the border, or you could take it right through to that darker line, just whatever you prefer. And I like to do a bit of both, just depending on my mood, or if I'm not watching carefully enough by accident because I've taken my colour too far. But mostly I choose to take it through just to, yeah, I don't know why, just because that's what I prefer, I guess. I like the look of it. So I'm just going to colour this one in quickly. And so how's your week been? Hope it's been a good one. I can't believe how quickly these weeks are flying past. It's now spring here in New Zealand, which is so cool. I love all the blossom around, and it's just wonderful. And the lambs, which actually started being born in the middle of winter, really, as per normal, are bouncing around, and some of them are getting quite old, so they're not looking so lambish anymore, which I think is always a shame. They grow up so fast. Right, because you've got extra lines when you do this, it can take a little bit of thought as to what the line is that you're colouring. It's very, very easy to colour the wrong part the wrong colour because you're mistaking the lines. So on this bit, I just had a little bit of this petal showing here, so I wanted to do it a different colour. But you can absolutely fudge it deliberately and make it look like it's part of something else if you want to. But yeah, so the different lines can sometimes be a bit confusing to follow which part you're colouring and what colour. So I like to keep with a relatively narrow palette when I'm doing this so that it doesn't get too much. So I'm just looking, sorry, it's a bit noisy. I might get the noise all done with by just tipping them out. Go for a different shade of yellow, or at least I hope it's different. And colour the, oh yeah, it's a bit different. It's a different type of pen, so I was taking a chance that it was a different shade, noticeably different. And you can also do a bit of shading and colouring as well, even with these pens. And it's obvious, like it's certainly not blended like you would achieve with coloured pencil or something, but it does work to give some depth and interest. And I think I'll do this bit over here red as well. Again, I'm using a different red, and there's a little bit of another circle here. I'm just colouring it all the same because it's such a little bit and I don't want to introduce another colour into this particular label, with one exception, which I'll do in a second. So there we go, that's just a very simple colour palette, and I'll lift it up when I'm done so you can see. I'm going to go in, and I just grabbed my bronze metallic Sharpie, just because it was the first one I saw. I've got 3 metallic Sharpies, but this one should look nice with the red. And I'm just going to colour in that border where it doesn't already have any other colour. So you could do it over top of the design right around and have a solid border of the colour, or you could leave it white in the gaps where you haven't coloured. Lots of options to customise it, and it might be something that you want to leave until later when you're using it on a project, and then decide if you want to colour it in or not. So hopefully you can see that cool little label, and I just love the boldness of it. It's fun. It's just fun, and it's really good to use in your personal journaling to inject some colour, or if you're doing a fun bright project, perhaps a summary project or a children's vibe journal, something that's a bit more playful, lends itself to more colour, then this would be a great thing to do. So I might go and do some green, do these leaves over here. So these have got veins in them, so maybe I'll have a little play and do alternating greens just for something different. And this is one of those activities that for me is just enjoyable. It's fun to do. So if I muck up and it looks awful, if any label looks awful, it's like, oh well, that's all right, move on, throw it away, no biggie. You know, and I find there's a lot of freedom in that sort of feeling, is like it doesn't actually have to turn out. If it doesn't turn out, just move on, do another one, get rid of it, or chop it up and make something else out of it. Use it in collage where it's not a focal point. Oops, can you hear that? The two boy cats are having a little play fight, so there's a bit of hissing and things going on there. So, you know, take the pressure off and just have some fun with it. Just have a play with some colour, some design, label stamp if you've got a label stamp. If you don't, then I would, you could use a punch and punch out shapes. You could just hand cut out some shapes. Basically any of the techniques that I mentioned last Friday, I think it was Friday's video where I did labels as well, they will work here as well. And you know, those coloured papers that you might have sitting around that you don't know what to do with, why not turn them into a label, or lots of labels as the case may be, because you can get quite a few out of one sheet of paper or one page of colouring page. So just fun and relaxing, great thing to do in front of TV too. If you don't like colouring, then perhaps not the project you might choose to do, because not everybody loves colouring, but I happen to love it and don't do nearly enough. I've always got so many things competing that I want to do, and yeah, it's a bit hard sometimes working out what I will do or won't do, and things that I love doing can get left behind because I've got priorities, as we all do. We all have priorities in life. I think I was in Monday's video, I was talking about adulting. Yeah, well, adulting comes with having to prioritize things and sometimes do the things you'd rather not over what you really want to do. Such as it is to be an adult. Right, so there we've got some nice green leaves, and I might just leave the rest of that uncoloured, the border, that's what I mean. And then I just roughly cut it out so it's easy to work with, and I don't worry about losing any of the pattern around. Like, I've got heaps of these books. I've probably got maybe 3 or 4, which is heaps, because I don't typically colour in them unless I'm just like, I just need something creative to do that I don't have to think about, I don't care about, and I need big bright colour. I just you know, in the mood for that sort of colouring as opposed to coloured pencil colouring. So yeah, I've got heaps to keep me going, so I'm not fussy with the bits in between that might get it thrown out. If it was a big bit, then I'd probably save it to add texture to collage. I haven't coffee dyed any of these pages, but that's another option. You could coffee dye them. You'd have to test and see how they go according to the quality of the printing as to whether the ink runs or not. I assume it would be fine, but again, I can't guarantee that. You would need to test it. And I probably will coffee dye some of the pages just to give a different look. And there's quick label, so that they're actually quite quick to do. I find them immensely satisfying. I normally use my big scissors to do the first cuts, but I couldn't be bothered changing over. So, weekend again. I can't believe that it's Saturday tomorrow. Where has the week been? So I have no idea what the plans are for the weekend. I guess we'll make it up as we go along, which is pretty typical really. Yeah, be interesting to see what we get up to or not. I don't know that the weather's supposed to be that great. But we shall see. Find out when we wake up in the morning. So hopefully you're not bored with me doing another label video. But I have said before, I am absolutely obsessed with labels and I can never get enough options. Oops. The more I have, the more options I have to decorate my ephemera, for journals, to suit whatever I'm doing. And I think everybody needs a bit of selection. Absolutely. Oh, my throat's getting a little bit scratchy. Excuse me, I'll just have a sip of my tea. Well, that went wrong. That sip of tea turned into a coughing fit, so I had to put you on pause so that I wasn't coughing in the camera. So sorry about that. Still feeling a little bit scratchy in the throat, so hopefully it doesn't, that cough doesn't come back. Now I'm thinking, just for fun, I'm going to try a more neutral sort of palette on this one, and it's leaves and flowers, or petals. So it may not look any good, but I just feel like in the mood for a play. And this is a perfect time to play with colours, play with how the colours work together, play with colour palettes. What do you like, what you don't like? Play with mixing them, like I was saying. Not that they blend, but you know. Actually, this would be perfect for those like Copic markers and Tombows and things like that. You could achieve some really pretty effects with those. I've only got a few Tombows and I don't actually know where they are at the moment. I haven't used them for ages because my blender pen ran out and kind of haven't gone back to them since that happened. But one day I'll get back to them. I think I've got 2 greens and 2 reds. So yeah, not a huge selection. Okay, now is this a different grey? Slightly. Might be too close. How about a silver? Where's my silver? And the thing with their Sharpies too, the ones I'm using, they haven't got particularly fine tips. So it can be challenging getting into the little points of the design. And they can also bleed a bit, as this grey has done. It's bled on the paper. But I'm not worried in the slightest about that. Now this is a deep blue and I really love it, but I've used it a lot on labeling things, and so the point has actually dulled. So it's even harder to get into those little crevices. But I'm just being a bit careful. Maybe I'll have to go out and buy another one of this colour, because I do like this deep sort of grey blue. It's really quite pretty. And back when I had my shop, I was using it to label signs in the shop instead of black, just for something different and not so harsh. But yeah, I didn't realise that the nib had gone like this until I pulled it out to do this sort of colouring. I was like, that's not nice and pointy like the other ones are. Now, if you are using Sharpies, they do have quite a strong smell, so bear that in mind. You might want to use them in ventilation. I'm not too worried about it. And then I've got my other wee markers, these ones. They're brand called Sugar Rush, and they smell. So this one's, I think, blackberry smell. And so I enjoy smelling those. I love taking the lid off and just inhaling deeply. Right, I'll see if this grey is going to turn out different just on this wee edging. Yep, it is. It's a darker grey. And then what's this bit coming through? I think that's another leaf. So maybe we'll use black on that one. Oh, use my licorice smelling black. Right, and now I've got the petals. So I'm thinking I was going to go brown, but maybe this peachy colour could be pretty. And it's still kind of neutral, I guess. I don't know, would you call it neutral? It's sort of more orangey than I was anticipating, but that's okay. Probably looks more orange than I remember because it's partnered with the greys. So I have created a new group on Facebook. It's called Visual Vibes. So if you were a member of the old group or are a member of the old group, there's now another one called Visual Vibes, but it's a public group. So I need anybody who has been part of the old group to jump over to the new group so I can get rid of the old group, because the old group was private group and was really limiting for growth and for being able to reach people who might want to download a freebie. So I've made that change now before it gets too big, because there's only like a dozen members or so there at the moment, and I think it'll be a lot easier for people to come and go without that barrier of needing to answer the questions and join the group, which can be a bit off-putting, and some people just choose not to go through that process because they can't be bothered or it doesn't suit them or what have you. So you're more than welcome to come along, pop into the group, grab a freebie. Do ask that you read the rules around the use of those. They're not big rules or anything, just practical use around copyright and things like that, but absolutely free to use, and you're more than welcome to pop in. I'd love it if you stayed around and join the conversations, post some examples of what you make. Yeah, ask questions, just join in. Be great to have you along there. Okay, and I think I just want to tie in some of this peachy colour by doing the border in it as well. And I can already tell this is not my favourite label, but doesn't matter. I'm still going to cut it out, pop it in my box, and it might find a perfect home one day. Or I might decide that it's been hanging around long enough and it can just go as part of a collage, or heaven forbid, in the rubbish. on the fire, something like that. Actually, I like it now with the border coloured. It's funny, just sometimes a little detail makes all the difference. And things can look different again when you cut them out. So I'll make this the last one to do on this side, and then I'm going to flip it over and see what we can get out of the other side. My voice seems to have gone a little bit husky now. I don't know if you can hear it or not after my coughing fit. It feels a bit irritated, my throat. Like it didn't enjoy that coughing. So I'd love it if you gave this a go. If you do make some similar or springboarded onto something else or your style, however you make them, come along, pop a picture up in Visual Vibes, and yeah, I'd love to see them. Love to know you're out there and what you're making. And if you don't make these, if you made something else, then come along and show that as well. So I actually don't mind that after all. I think it is usable in the right layout. Snuggles. One of our cats is just attacking the coat hangers. Snuggles, what you doing? I think it's her cry for attention. Okay, so this page is this side's interesting. It's got some like pebble shapes with stars, and I'm wondering whether I can grab a couple of those. The beauty about this type of book too is they often use the same designs between books. So sometimes you can find exactly the same image in a completely different book, different brand even, and you know, have another go at it or choose the other side of the page. I think that's going to be quite nice actually. And maybe I'll get one with its side on one end like that. So I can see where I've stamped that other one that I haven't cut out. I can see it through the paper because it's quite thin paper. And that's the other thing, is that you can see parts of the design through the paper in the white space, even when it's glued down. But once it's decorated and you've got a focal point on whatever you're decorating, it doesn't matter. It becomes very unnoticeable, and you're probably the only one who's going to really notice it, because you've taken the focus away from it and it's just kind of very, very faint in the background. Right, what else do I want to grab from this side? Maybe this section here, I've cut into it, so I'm not going to get that whole heart. Maybe I can get this wee heart instead. Yeah. And this is where having the acrylic block with the clear stamps is really good, because you can see where you want to position it and try things out. Yep, so you can still absolutely write in that space there. Then grab some of these wee leaves down here. They'd be quite, whoops, pretty. My stamp's sticking to my block now. I don't know if that's because of the fresh ink or what it's, why that's happening. Just playing with how I want this to sit, and I'm just going to go there. So less white space on this, but still white space. So you could just add a word over top of the design once it's coloured, or just leave it as a label. So certainly if you don't want writing space on the label, then choose the bits that are all completely covered with design and colour them in as much or as little as you like, and then cut the label out. Like, there's lots and lots of ways you can customize these. So let's go in with my gold to get these stars. Go for a bit of glitter, although it's not super shiny. It's nowhere near as shiny as the silver and bronze. That's all right. Maybe it just hasn't been used for a bit, might be the problem. Yeah, it's starting to get better now. That vibrance is coming through, so mustn't have been used for a while, this one. So I'm just going to go back over this first one that's a bit dull. Oh, huge difference. And maybe this one as well. Definitely way better. It's like how paints, when they sit, they separate out some of the oil, and if you don't shake them, you get the oil out first. It was kind of the same thing with this pen. It sort of had a dull, transparent type colour to it, rather than the opaque gold that I was expecting. So what colour should I do the little rocky, stony bits in between with? Something bright and colourful maybe, or something neutral. Yep, I like that. And again, I wish you could tell me which way to go. I'm thinking bright. I'm thinking totally unrealistic. No, not that one. Looking for inspiration here. Pink. Let's go pink, just because. So, sorry, I'm tending to zone out a little bit with my colouring. I'm not used to talking and colouring at the same time. And I see a star that I've missed, so I'll get that bit of star. And a little bit over here too, just a wee tip. And when I was choosing the colour, I was just looking for a colour that would complement and look nice. Because you don't have to be realistic. You could do pink leaves. You do brown flowers. Like, you can do whatever you feel like. Whatever you like, whatever you think will suit your project, if you've got a project in mind, whatever mood you're in, because you'll find a use for it somewhere in one of your makes. Just allow yourself the freedom to be creative with your colouring. No censorship, no pressure. Alright, so I'm going to finish this one off and cut this one out, and then we'll call this a video, because rather than me just sitting here and forgetting to talk as I colour away and stamp, I think you've probably seen enough to get the idea. Oops, I just, you see that? I just drew on myself trying to put the lid on the Sharpie. So grab wet wipe and wipe off as much as I can while it's still wet. Funny. Okay, so just give that one a trim. And then look at what ones I did. So when you're doing these by yourself, you know, not trying to talk to a camera, it does go pretty quick, and it's a really nice way to pass the evening in front of TV or what have you, whatever you tend to do in the evenings. Nice and relaxing, which I think I've already said, so I apologise if I repeat myself. Oops, I see another little bit there I missed. Really enjoying this new label set I got from AliExpress. I've used this particular label quite a lot already and I've had it less than a week. Alright, I'll just go in and get this little bit down here. Also, I prefer to colour them before I cut them out. That way you're not having to worry about your pen running over the edges and it being drawn on your surface underneath or catching it on another bit of paper or something. If you colour them first then cut them out, you don't have to worry about it. So there we go. So there's that one. And that one. Perhaps I'll put them all together if they fit. Oh, we only did 4, so yep, should do. And the one with the green leaves. And then that first one. So lots and lots of fun. I hope you really enjoy those. I hope you enjoy making some. And I shall see you in the next video. Thanks for joining me today. Bye for now.